Okay, so have you ever, like, thought about what it would be like to live in a city where just nothing grows?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and, like, everything's broken and nobody smiles?
That sounds pretty bleak.
It really does. And you get hit with that right away in Nicola Davies' the book, The Promise. Like, right from the start, it says, nothing grew. Everything was broken. Nobody smiled.
I can see how that would set a pretty stark scene.
Yeah, it does. So today we're going to take a deep dive into this book. It's all about how one little promise and one small act can lead to some really big changes. And Davies worked with this amazing illustrator, Laura Carlin, and their talents together make this story come alive.
I've always loved Carlin's work.
Oh, she's amazing.
You.
So what we're going to do today is break down the important parts of this book. We'll talk about the characters, the way the story goes, and the powerful messages it gives you. And since, like, the characters drive the story so much, why don't we start there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so at the center of it all, you've got this young thief. And she's our narrator. You meet her in this really harsh city. Remember how it's described? Nothing grew, everything was broken. So you know right away that she's had a tough life.
Yeah, and the fact that she's stealing just to survive that really shows you how difficult things are.
Right. And then there's this moment where she tries to steal a bag from this old woman. Seems like a desperate act, but it ends up changing everything.
It's interesting how the old woman reacts, though. You'd expect her to be scared or angry, but instead she holds on to that bag with what the book calls the strength of heroes.
That's such a powerful image.
It is. And then
Yeah.
instead of yelling or fighting back, she gives the girl the bag, but there's a catch.
Oh, yeah. She has to make a promise.
Exactly. She has to promise to plant what's inside. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's brilliant. You know, the girl's expecting something valuable, something she can use right away, but the old woman is thinking way ahead.
Right. She's not focused on the immediate need. She's thinking about the future.
And because of this promise, you see this huge change in the young thief. It's like she starts to heal, along with the city itself.
And it's worth noting that she doesn't have a name. Like a specific name.
That's true.
I think that's important because it means she could be any young person who's struggling. It shows that anyone has the potential to change and make things better.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got the old lady. She may seem frail, but she's clearly got this inner strength and wisdom. It's like her simple act of making the girl promise to plant those acorns. Well, that's what sets everything in motion.
It really makes you think about different kinds of power. Instead of using force or punishment, she uses kindness and a belief in the future.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And what about all the other people in the city? They're described as mean and hard and ugly, almost like their environment has made them that way.
Yeah, they seem so unhappy and disconnected, like they're just rushing through life without really seeing anything.
And then as the girl starts planting and things start to grow, you see this change in them too. They start smiling, talking to each other. They even start planting their own little gardens.
It's like the story showing you how our environment can affect us. Like a healthy environment can make people healthier and happier.
Totally. It's like the life and beauty that the girl brings starts to rub off on everyone.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how important it is to have nature in our lives.
Yeah, and how much we're connected to the world around us. And the story doesn't end there, does it? Years later, you meet another young person trying to steal from the older girl.
Oh, yeah, and she does the same thing the old woman did. Offers the bag full of acorns and asks for that same promise.
Exactly. It's like this beautiful cycle of hope and change being passed on. And the book doesn't say if it's a boy or a girl, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. It makes it universal, like anyone can be part of this change.
Right. It shows that creating a better future isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
I love how Davies does that. And there's also this image of a little red bird that keeps showing up in the illustrations. Such a bright spot in all of that initial grayness. Did you notice that?
Yeah, what's interesting is what it might symbolize. It could be hope, like a little bit of beauty in life that hangs on even in the toughest times.
That's a good interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about the characters and kind of hinted at the story, but let's really go through what happens. For me, it all starts with that description of the city, mean, hard, ugly, like a place where nothing good can happen.
That sets the stage for everything that follows. It makes the change that much more powerful. You really feel the weight of that dead environment.
Yeah, it's heavy. And then you have that encounter between the girl and the old woman, and that promise to plant. The girl's surprised to find acorns. What do you think about her reaction?
It shows you how differently they're thinking. The girl's worried about surviving right now, but the old woman is thinking about a future that might not even include her.
It's like a lesson in thinking long term. And then the girl starts planting those acorns in these forgotten parts of the city, by the trash heaps along the train tracks, anywhere she can find a bit of dirt.
It's like she's reclaiming those spaces, showing that even the most neglected places can come back to life.
And then slowly things start changing. Tiny shoots pop up, trees begin to grow, and the book's illustrations change too. They go from these dull grays to these vibrant colors.
Yeah, that visual change is so important. It mirrors what's happening in the story. It's like the city is coming alive again, and then there's the rain and the birds coming back. It's all about this return to balance.
And the girl doesn't stop there. She goes to other places, spreading these seeds of change. The illustrations even make it seem like she's having a global impact.
Which is a powerful message. It shows that one small act can inspire others and lead to widespread change.
And then you have that full circle moment we talked about with the new young person and the acorns and the promise. It's like this hopeful image that sticks with you.
It shows that change isn't a one-time thing. It's about continuing to nurture life and passing that on to others.
So the story itself is moving, but let's
Mhm.
talk about the bigger ideas. The power of nature feels so central to everything.
Absolutely. The whole story is about how nature can heal and transform. You see this barren city come back to life just because of trees and plants. It shows you how powerful nature is and how even small interactions with it can make a difference.
And it's not just the physical change. It affects the people too. They're happier, kinder, they connect with each other more. It's like the story is saying that a healthy environment is essential for us to be healthy and happy.
Exactly. And then there's this theme of hope and transformation both for the city and for the young thief.
It's amazing to see how she goes from stealing to survive to bringing life to this whole city. It shows that anyone can change, even in the toughest situations.
And the fact that the city changes along with her, that really emphasizes the hope. Like it shows that even things that seem totally hopeless can be turned around.
And that promise she makes, that's like the key to everything. The whole story unfolds because of that one commitment.
It's interesting that she makes the promise without really knowing what it means. But by keeping her word, she sets off this incredible chain of events. It shows how powerful integrity can be and how doing the right thing, even when it seems small, can have amazing results.
It makes you think about the promises you make and what they can lead to. And then there's this idea of caring for others, even if it's indirectly by taking care of the environment.
Right. The greener city becomes a more caring community. People start taking pride in their surroundings. They talk to each other. They help each other. It's like taking care of the environment is a way of taking care of each other.
It's a beautiful connection. Now, if you love The Promise, there are other books out there that have similar themes. The Man Who Planted Trees was a big inspiration for Nicola Davies. Have you read that one?
Yes, it's a lovely story about one man's dedication to planting trees and how it transforms a whole region. And there are several other books that might resonate with you too.
You've got a great list here. We have The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. It's about a boy who brings nature back to his city. It sounds a lot like The Promise.
It does. It's about how one person's actions can have a big impact. And then there's Wangari's Trees of Peace by Jeanette Winter. It's a true story about an environmental activist in Kenya who planted trees and made a huge difference.
It's inspiring to see those real-world examples.
Yeah.
And then we have One Plastic Bag, Isetta Cisse, and The Recycling Women of the Gambia by Miranda Paul. Another true story about people taking action to help the environment.
It shows how even really big problems can be tackled with creativity and teamwork. And then there's Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson. It's about how small acts of kindness can have a huge ripple effect.
That's so important to remember. And finally, we have another book by Nicola Davies herself, King of the Sky. It's about a boy who takes care of a lost pigeon. It shows her love for nature and how it connects with us.
It's a great example of how she explores those themes in different ways. So if you love The Promise, definitely check out some of these other books.
It's a fantastic list. Now let's talk a bit about Nicola Davies herself. It's amazing that she's written over 50 books for children.
It is. And they've been translated into so many languages and won tons of awards. She really knows how to connect with young readers.
And before she was an author, she was actually a zoologist. She has a degree in natural sciences.
That's fascinating. It makes sense, though, when you think about how much her books focus on nature.
Right. She even worked as a field biologist studying whales and bats. And she worked on the BBC show, The Really Wild Show.
So she has all this firsthand experience with nature. That definitely comes through in her writing.
Definitely. And she's really passionate about getting people to connect with nature. It's like a mission for her. She used to teach creative writing, and now she does workshops encouraging people to find their own voices and speak up for the environment.
It's a powerful combination, her scientific background, her storytelling skills, and her passion for teaching. She's a really unique voice in children's literature.
You've also listed a few other books by her, like A First Book of Nature, which is nonfiction, and The Day War Came, which is about a really tough subject. It shows how much range she has as a writer.
Yeah, she can write about all sorts of things, but she always has this way of making you think and feel. It's pretty special.
This deep dive into The Promise has been amazing. It's such a simple story, but it has so much depth and so many important messages.
It really shows you the power of small acts and how connecting with nature can transform us and the world around us.
And the young thief's journey, it gives you this sense of hope. Like anyone can make a difference, even if it starts with something small.
It makes you think about what promises you're making in your own life and what kind of impact you want to have.
It really does. So as we finish up, think about the little acorns you can plant in your own life. What small acts of kindness or care can you do? What positive changes can you start?
Even the smallest seed can grow into something amazing. So what will you choose to plant?
That's a great question to leave us with. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Until next time, keep planting those seeds.
And watching them grow.